Hello, everybody. My name is Bob O'Donnell. I'm the president of TECHnalysis Research, and I'm very pleased to be moderating this panel today here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, where we're going to be talking about Wi-Fi, enterprise Wi-Fi. And specifically, our topic is life-changing connectivity, a catalyst for enterprise innovation. And the idea is what we want to do is talk about some of these new technologies that are coming to Wi-Fi, specifically the 6 gigahertz band that first came around with Wi-Fi 6E, now new capabilities in Wi-Fi 7. And what does that all mean for businesses who want to deploy this technology? What kinds of applications can be used? What are some of the critical capabilities of these technologies and other sorts of services that can be built with them? So to do that, I'm going to chat with representatives from Qualcomm, the Fira, the location of the MWC, and from Cisco. So let's just go down the line and have everybody introduce themselves, and we'll start with Yogesh Paliwal from Cisco.
Thank you, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is Yogesh Paliwal. I'm the Director of Product Management for Cisco Wireless. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about, how Wi-Fi can contribute much more than what it already has today in ecosystem. And I'm so happy to be discussing with this panel and our audience today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And up next is Tony Montes Palos, who's the Chief Architect at the Fira Barcelona.
So my name is Tony Montes. I'm a telecommunication manager at Fira Barcelona since 2008. I'm in charge of all the Congress, all the network team, for all the Congress during the year.
And then last but certainly not least, it's Ganesh Swaminathan from Qualcomm.
Thanks, Bob, and welcome everybody. My name is Ganesh Swaminathan. I'm the Vice President and General Manager for Qualcomm's wireless networking business, as well as the fiber broadband business. Great to share the stage with all of you here talking about Wi-Fi and what kind of life-changing connectivity it brings to the table. So looking forward to the discussion.
Great, thanks, appreciate it. Let's just jump in, all right? So there are a number of challenges that we've had in the world of Wi-Fi. And I mentioned the 6 gigahertz spectrum, which is opening up, this big opportunity. Let's, go down the line and talk about what these latest versions of Wi-Fi are doing. Again, Wi-Fi 6E and then Wi-Fi 7, which is just coming onto the stage. And so, Yogesh, we were going to start with you. So give us your sense on the value of this spectrum and the opportunities it enables and what Cisco specifically is doing with it.
Thank you, Bob. And like you said, as we went into COVID, the user expectation of how the Wi-Fi should behave from their experience at home when they upgraded their home infrastructure and their new devices, as they come back to enterprise, their expectation of network itself has changed. Beyond that, as enterprises take this digital transformation journey, they are bringing up new devices at an unprecedented pace, as well as the new applications. And these new devices and the new applications have a different need on the requirement. So, shall I say, there are challenges, but also opportunities for Wi-Fi, ecosystem to evolve. But before we get to that, and I'm sure in the rest 40 minutes we talk about that, let's just celebrate Wi-Fi. Why these expectations are high on Wi-Fi? Because the Wi-Fi community must have done something really good. This year we are celebrating 25 years of Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Right? And if I can draw parallel, I think of Wi-Fi as a nerdy kid startup that got junk band of 2.4 to start with. It showed promises, then it got further investment in terms of 5 gigahertz band. And it responded, and how, right?
Yep.
Last 25 years of journey of 2.4 and 5 have been amazing. If you just kind of carry forward that startup analogy, it has delivered a multi-trillion unicorn, which has profound impact on each one of our lives. Right?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you think about it, you can stop an average person on the street and ask about Wi-Fi, and they'll know what it is. I mean, that's not really common when you think about a radio-based technology. Yet everybody knows, like, oh, what's the Wi-Fi? Whatever. And so it's become part of their culture, both from a consumer perspective and certainly in business as well.
And you're absolutely right. Like, beyond numbers, in human life, right? Like my 4-year-old, she just watches, some rhymes on YouTube and it doesn't work. She's like, hey, Wi-Fi is down. And she doesn't understand anything about internet. She doesn't know the word, I would bet she doesn't know the word internet yet, right? Now coming back to enterprises, look, Wi-Fi has performed so awesome in last 25 years. And as these new use cases come in, the first question that comes is, can Wi-Fi do that? Right? And now you talked about the new spectrum, which is, I would call it again, a new investment has been made into that unicorn based on the past performance to say, we expect you to deliver with the technology such as Wi-Fi 7 as technology advances, as well as the cloud delivered technology such as AI. 6 gigahertz, new standard, Wi-Fi 7 and things that come after that. And with AI, it's for the ecosystem to kind of come true on that.
Absolutely.
Ganesh,
So yeah, Ganesh, Qualcomm is known for its radio expertise, obviously in cellular as well as in Wi-Fi, and you guys help drive a lot of the industry standards. So let's talk about that 6 gigahertz spectrum and what it actually means. And I think a lot of people don't realize what a massive amount of space that is from a radio frequency perspective, because we've in the past talked about 5 megahertz, lanes of traffic, and now all of a sudden, wow, there's like 1.2 gigahertz of spectrum. It's crazy.
Right. It is a once in a decade kind of an event, right? It doesn't happen. So Yogesh talked about 25 years of Wi-Fi. In some sense, Wi-Fi was an enormous amount of success, which means you typically associate success breeds success. But in this scenario, it also opens up more and more devices, as a result of which Wi-Fi was starting to get congested. First, it was 2.4 gigahertz, right? And then 5 gigahertz opened up a lot more spectrum. Turns out 5 gigahertz with high bandwidth and lower latency kind of applications is getting to a point where, hey, you have more number of devices, especially in enterprise scenarios where you want to deploy and service simultaneous user count of high bandwidth, especially in the post-COVID environment, hybrid applications. So there was a pent-up demand to have a totally new spectrum. And that's where one of a watershed moment about 6 gigahertz coming in. And especially 1.2 gigahertz of spectrum is assumed by certain countries. Some regulators have gone for half of that. Irrespective of that, I think the tremendous amount of new spectrum brings enormous value from a consumer standpoint, be it in the enterprise or in the home. It's about purely making Wi-Fi even more ubiquitous, even more a utility in your home, as well as in enterprise, and deliver those applications simultaneously at the right latency and the right deterministic performance, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we're super excited with 6 gigahertz, first with 6E, and now with Wi-Fi 7. And Wi-Fi 7 brings a whole lot of new tools, and we'll talk about that down the road. But 6 gigahertz in itself, that's a watershed moment for Wi-Fi. Something we can all look back upon and then say, yeah, I was there when it happened.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of it is, as you guys have already started to point out, Wi-Fi was sort of a victim of its own success, and so therefore you had to find other ways to expand the amount of devices that could be made available to connect, as well as the applications. And when you get that much more spectrum, you can start to think about doing things differently. So, Tony, I'm going to bring it to you now to talk about, you're the customer here. Just by the way, in case we didn't make it clear, so Qualcomm makes chips that go into Cisco boxes that get deployed in, various customer sites. And so, Tony, as someone involved with that, talk us through sort of what you guys do here with Wi-Fi and what opportunities you see with this new spectrum.
So Fira and Cisco, we have provided Wi-Fi in Fira Barcelona since 2010. So we have lived a large part of the evolution of the Wi-Fi protocol. In 2010, for instance, just with Wi-Fi 4. In 2013, we installed one of the biggest Wi-Fi 5 networks in the world with 1,000 access points. That year, we moved from a temporary network. The first network we deployed was in Montjuic, the other venue that is in the center of Barcelona. And now, in 2013, we installed a fixed network. So it solved a lot of problems of deploying a network from the scratch between having a fixed infrastructure. Then in 2020, we installed Wi-Fi 6 in 3 pavilions. And now at this Mobile World Congress, we are using most of the venue with Wi-Fi 6. And we also we have recently installed around 60 Wi-Fi 60 access point. So we have at this Mobile World Congress 1,700 access points in our venue, okay, to provide service to our exhibitors. Last Mobile World Congress, we have 50,000 devices connected to our networks during the 4 days of the Congress, okay. But one of the main mission of our engineers is not only to provide service to these clients, okay. Which implies to have a high capacity network with high throughput, okay, and an excellent network management. But one of the key points is we need to accommodate, okay, the network that our exhibitors bring. So we don't have the full spectrum for us. We must lend some channels for exhibitors. So one of the key points of our network team is to co-exhibit the networks that we run at Fira with our customers. So for us, the adoption of the Wi-Fi 6 is a good news. So it facilitates this task of coexist both networks and helps us to provide more channels, to have more capacity for those bandwidth demanding applications.
Yeah, like you said, just walking around the show floor today, I mean, it was crazy. It was so many people. I mean, it was just, and more, you've got a bunch of people, that are live streaming video. You've got, the TikTok influencers that are walking around the show, as well as professional video production, and they're doing live streaming, and all kinds of these applications that are out there. So those demands just go up. And I know we're going to talk about it later. One of the interesting things was I noticed I was going to turn on my Wi-Fi. I was like, oh, wait. It already connected because of open roaming. How cool is that, Right. So little things like that just kind of make that experience better. Ganesh, let's talk a little bit about that. In fact, some of the, from your perspective, from Qualcomm, what sort of things were you guys thinking about in terms of the types of use cases you thought could be driven from this new technology and this new spectrum?
So if you think about use cases, right, largely we classify into maybe 3 different sets of use cases. One that demands, let's say, latency sensitive, right, lower latency, the lower the better, right? The other one is about bandwidth. Higher the bandwidth, it's better. And sometimes we're seeing use cases that merge the two together, right? And then specifically in the enterprise applications, largely you would see higher density of devices. Right, it could be IoT class devices, it could be bandwidth hungry devices, but all of them kind of coming together and occupying spectrum. Bring your own devices as employees, and other people start bringing more and more devices. You're connecting on your phone, you're connecting on your laptop, you're connecting on cameras within the enterprise situation, the office environments, and be it healthcare or be it hospitality. It's just the sheer amount of devices and then the bandwidth it consumes, and then the latency at which you want to have two-way communication, whether it's video or voice. All of this is happening simultaneously. So when you look at what is the type of technology that actually would address those use cases, so Wi-Fi is as ubiquitous as you can get in terms of technology to address a low latency application to a higher bandwidth, as well as serve multiple amount of devices at the same time. So those are the things we look at in terms of what are the tools of the technology, which generations of Wi-Fi, as you're looking at these capabilities, would serve and future-proof your networks, be it the enterprise or be it the home. So that's kind of the thought process in which I would probably, classify. Within each of that, there are several tools, whether it's Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7, that brings to the table, and how people like us deliver to folks like Yogesh, who then work with customers like Fira de Barcelona to actually deploy, makes the value add, so to speak.
Yeah. And Yogesh, I mean, from a Cisco perspective, you guys, you have 6E product. I know 7 products, I believe, are probably in the works. How do you guys think about this Wi-Fi evolution and the way you productize some of these core technologies?
Everything starts with customer, I would put it this way. So like Ganesh talked about the technology tools that we have, but it's ultimately what customer is looking to do. So what Tony talked about, let's say 10 years back, connectivity was the primary problem that they're trying to solve for, right? Can I give users certain bandwidth so that they can do the things that they want to do themselves? Now, as they get into, okay, I have a good enough stable network, and by the way, the business model that it enables, we didn't talk about, right? But as these exhibitors come in, Tony has an SLA with them to be able to say, I will provide this connectivity and with so-and-so SLA, otherwise you get XYZ dollars impact. So there is a real dollar impact in connectivity to start with. But beyond that, and you start looking at, hey, venues like Fira de Barcelona, can I get more out of my network just beyond connectivity? Can I get location analytics because all the people are connected to you? Can I get the location data, use network as a sensor, and then maybe monetize that in some way? Have different booth rate depending on the popularity of the location and price them differently. So that's a venue like Fira de Barcelona. Something like, in Industry 4.0, manufacturing plants and all that, they are looking for, okay, we have good enough connectivity, but can I get my production line on Wi-Fi? To Ganesh's point, again, it's about, if I get my production line, it's about those SLA-based applications that require certain latency, certain resiliency, and all of that, right? What tools we can enable for them. But I'm also very excited about the use case that we have not thought about. Because who thought 25 years back when Wi-Fi started that we'll be at a stage where we are today? Right? I can share one example which I really like about, which is there's one VR experience firm that I've been working with lately. They get group of people together in a co-located space, and they give them the VR experience. So you have the VR headset, but their business model did not allow them to go for any licensed spectrum technology. So they would have all the users come in and wear a heavy backpack that has a lot of compute and all of that. Right? When they started using 6 gigahertz, they could let the users just be users and just have the connectivity and the compute at the back end, and users just can wear that headset and have that natural experience that a normal human being would have. Now, these kind of experience would not be possible without the latest technology advanced with Wi-Fi 6 and 6E.
Yeah. And then, of course, the next one being Wi-Fi 7. So let's dig into that a little bit specifically. I mean, Wi-Fi 7 obviously, continues what 6E did with the 6 gigahertz band, but it adds a lot more. There's a lot of other interesting technologies, including quite a few that honestly are very cellular-like, right? ODF, the carrier aggregation, the modulation techniques, a number of those things, are things that we first heard about in the cellular world, and now we're seeing them in the Wi-Fi world because it makes the service more robust. It can enhance the quality. It can have faster links, et cetera, et cetera. So, Yogesh, I'll start with you on this. In terms of what Cisco is going to do with Wi-Fi 7, how do you see it fitting in? Does it coexist with your 6E product? Is it simply a replacement? How does that evolve?
So I would probably answer it in two ways. From a standard and technology point of view, Wi-Fi 7 brings a new tools to the system, right? So it will be 11BE with its own tooling in system. What is possible with it Wi-Fi 7 is you could still have a 2.4 and 5 product and still call it Wi-Fi 7, or you can have 2.4, 5 and or 6, which is a different category of product altogether. So what I'm trying to do with that is and I'm thinking of the use cases beyond what we have today. Because the use cases that we have today, we know what to do with 2.4 and 5, and then we can use Wi-Fi 7 tools to kind of improve on that. But as you start adding 2.4, 5, 6, and the features that are there in Wi-Fi 7, like I said, sky is the limit in terms of what you can get implemented. Because with With 6, you have a clean spectrum, and with 5, you have delivered so much. So the things that we talk about, latency, resiliency, and other things, all of those can be guaranteed in unlicensed spectrum with Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And Ganesh, I mean, technologically speaking, from what you guys are doing at the chipset level, what do you believe are the most important characteristics of Wi-Fi 7?
So I think first and foremost, it's about Wi-Fi 7 is for all bands, right? So unlike the past where some band benefited better than the other, I think when the industry got together to generate Wi-Fi 7 specifications, it's about how do we maximize capabilities in each of the bands. So independent of how the regulatory situation is around the world, whether it's 6 gigahertz is regulated or not, a baseline technology improvement has to be there.
Right.
So I think that's the first and foremost where Wi-Fi 7 is available on 2.4 gig and 5 gig to Yogesh's point. The next important thing is about 6 gigahertz and how do you maximize the capacity. Now, Wi-Fi 7 brings to the table the 320 megahertz option, right? So you have wider channels, obviously delivering higher bandwidth, and it also provides enterprise an opportunity to have smaller chunks, many of those smaller chunks,
Right.
so to speak, right? In a typical cell-based deployment model, there's opportunity to deploy multiple networks of potentially even 40, 80, even 160 megahertz band capability that can be managed by the IT resource of any given deployment. Further to that, you already alluded to the carrier aggregation aspect, which is the ability to combine 2 bands or multi-link operation. I think that's one of those areas where not just 2.4 and 5, it's 5 and 6 can be aggregated for better bandwidth, but 2.4 plus 5 can also be done in terms of whether you want to manage latency or you just want to provide capability that a client can get better service. Last but not the least, I think this is important for anybody, especially from an enterprise standpoint, is the ability to manage the interference.
Right.
I think Wi-Fi 7 brings to the table this notion of preamble puncturing, or what we like to call adaptive interference. It's about not just dropping down the bandwidth because there's interference in a particular channel. It's about working around it and having an efficient mechanism for spectrum sharing in the interference situation. I think that's very valuable, not just being in 6 gigahertz, but also in the other bands.
Yeah.
So and when you look at all of this in totality, right, it's about maximizing performance on all 3 bands, taking advantage of 6 gigahertz to the fullest possible spectrum, right? And then providing the tools necessary for our customers in turn to service their customers, the ability for better deployment and meet those low latency, high bandwidth deterministic use cases.
Yeah. So, Tony, as a customer of this, how important is it for you to have these latest versions? And, have you started to deploy any 6E products yet? And what kind of benefits are you seeing? And what's your take on Wi-Fi 7 and how it gets deployed?
Yeah, with Wi-Fi 6E, we have the more channels, the better service we can offer. Okay, but for me, in my opinion, Wi-Fi 7, the key word is stability. So, using multi-link operation, if we can have a stable connection in 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz at the same time, it opens the door to move. For instance, most of the more critical demos, our customers use only wired because Wi-Fi can suffer interference. We can talk about the non-DFS channels, etc. Everyone one of these, but with Wi-Fi 7 and with this stability, we can move some critical services that we only use in wired over the Wi-Fi. For instance, it opens the use of VR, AR, online gaming, robotics, and all this stuff that requires or higher throughput or low latency.
Yeah. So, and I mean, as a venue that hosts, Mobile World Congress, the wireless show, obviously there's a lot of pressure on you to make sure that there is good service. So, when you do upgrades, you've talked about how you've had, some of the largest installations of certain technologies. Do you do it all at once? Do you kind of ease it in? And what have you found to be, the best way to do that for other folks who may be trying to do these kind of deployments?
We are, for instance, in Wi-Fi 6E, we are testing just one congress one hall in that Mobile World Congress. We are testing. We do all the tests and see what the customer is telling about this, the problems that can arise. And
Got it.
And then we can start the migration to the rest of the
Fair enough.
of the venue.
Fair enough. One of the other interesting things about the 6 gigahertz band is its potential use outdoors. And there's been a lot of discussion about outdoor Wi-Fi networks, and so with spectrum sharing and other technologies like that. Yogesh, can you tell us a little bit about that and what you see as an opportunity for outdoor?
Right. All right. So outdoor, typically in a corporate enterprise world, is seen as an extension of indoor. And open room was one example that you just talked about, which is how seamlessly can you move from your, LTE to a Wi-Fi without even worrying about the username and password, which is the biggest thing any Wi-Fi user worries about. But beyond that, Wi-Fi is used outdoor in many mission-critical deployments, right? Across different industries and verticals, people use them in mining, for meshing, and connected, unconnected, if you will, where you cannot just lay the cables, and you want to use Wi-Fi link to make those temporary networks that you want to do that. 6 gigahertz, as you are aware, the regulations are different, and the band was allocated to different things in different geographies. So as it comes on board, we have to make sure this unlicensed technology Wi-Fi works seamlessly with whatever has been using it so far. So in US, I should say North America, because Canada is just fast following US, there is a function called automatic frequency coordination, which allows us to coordinate with incumbents and use the channels which incumbents are not using. We talked about the benefit of 6 gigahertz in general. I want to use this forum to kind of call upon all regulators to provide ways for 6 gigahertz outdoor deployment of Wi-Fi and open up spectrum outdoors. As of today, it's only North America development.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of companies that have campuses where people are walking around, the ability to have an outdoor Wi-Fi network can make a big difference in terms of what sort of things they can do. Ganesh, what's your take on outdoor and the role, and how is Qualcomm helping enable that through the chipset and RF front ends and antennas and all the other things that you're helping out with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we look at it from the perspective of, again, with Wi-Fi leadership, how do we maximize Wi-Fi and its capabilities for our customer base? With the advent of 6 gigahertz operation, obviously there were incumbents, Yogesh had talked about, incumbents who have been using those channels. So if you take a step back, the first and foremost thing the industry did was to protect the incumbents while expanding the spectrum. Right, that was the goal, and that's why the low-power indoor mode of operation, so to speak, kind of started. But then we quickly realized as an industry there is an opportunity to utilize the full spectrum if there is a way to efficiently share the spectrum through some kind of a cloud database. CBRS had done that in the past a little bit, but it was considered a little bit more complex and exhaustive. So how do we do something that's much more simpler? And that's how AFC, or automatic frequency coordination, was born. Now, granted, that's more of a North America thing in terms of US and Canada, or the top 2 countries who have regulated, and as recent as last week, FCC provided the full approval. And from our perspective, we see an opportunity, and we are providing a cloud solution that enables our customers to leverage 6 gigahertz for its maximum operation by providing a cloud database that you check for geolocation and then address the frequencies and the power that you can serve for those access points. And that's something we believe, once it takes its roots, the rest of the countries would see the success behind AFC and how customers are able to take advantage of that. And we really hope, to Yogesh's call, the regulators around the world would be opening up the spectrum, will be going for these shared spectrum cloud approaches, where Qualcomm can continue to service those countries and our customers in those countries, right? So that's what we believe would happen, especially with the recent successes in the US and Canada. We hope that's a start of something bigger across the world.
Makes sense. And Tony, obviously it's not available here yet in Spain, but as someone, you've got a few outdoor areas in between the halls and, outside. Is this a technology that you think would be interesting to deploy for the Fira?
Yes, normally we have only between the halls in other areas, just basic connectivity. Yes, in case of there are some requests, we reinforce that area, but it's not our main
Right, of
main
course.
goal. Okay, we are focused on where we have all the booth, all the exhibitors, but we have just a basic in other
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah. So something like outdoor would be it'd be interesting for you it would help, build an even stronger story.
Exactly, but probably we need to combine with other technologies. Probably we will talk later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Fair enough. One of the interesting things that's apparent as we're discussing this is, it takes a lot of collaboration, to help build the ecosystem of Wi-Fi, and again, Qualcomm and Cisco working together to bring these products to market. Yogesh, let's talk about that. I mean, how do you see this role of companies working together and building out the ecosystem, and how important do you think that is?
So I would start by saying, in unlicensed spectrum, right, specifically, it's important for the whole ecosystem to work together. Qualcomm and Cisco are great companies. We have no technology religion. We work on everything that can help customer improve their user experiences, right? I have, in my local native language, there's a saying which roughly translates to, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together, right? So it's the chipset vendors, the cloud providers, the infrastructure vendors, the client ecosystem, every one of us to kind of work together and make Wi-Fi as successful in next 25 as it has been last 25. As specific to Qualcomm and Cisco, we have been working together on a bunch of things. From infrastructure side, access point, we talked about building technologies that go beyond access point, some of the AI initiatives that we are working on. Working together is the only way to be successful, is what I would say, and I would think we are on the right path there.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Ganesh, how about for you? What's your kind of perspective on that?
Customer's always right, right? That is
Of
the
course.
perspective. But having said that, I think Cisco and Qualcomm go a long way, not just from an access point business, but also from a broader technology tools that Qualcomm can bring to the table, and a customer like Cisco has a breadth of applications and end customers that they service, where it naturally marries the technology partner to actually a system provider. Right. So therein lies that deep-rooted partnership.
Right.
Specific to access points, I think we've been working over multiple generations, and Yogesh also touched upon Qualcomm can bring the perspective of an ecosystem, because we also have Wi-Fi, and not just Wi-Fi, but also other technologies on the client side. At the end of the day, you have an access point that needs to talk to the clients to provide an end-to-end experience. And Qualcomm can bring that perspective of doing on both sides, and in working together with Cisco can bring the right tools, the right technology, take the standards, but then apply it the right way, whether it's in silicon, software, or cloud, to allow Cisco to differentiate and then eventually to service their customers.
Yeah.
So that's how we kind of look at it, right? We start by customers' use cases, and then how do we tailor the standards in a unique way and help them differentiate.
And to that end, it's about building on that and then enabling new types of services. So, of course, one of the things that has been getting a lot of discussion is the notion of location-based services. And so, obviously, Tony, for you, the ability to have location-based services and then build applications that, build on top of this technology, I would think would be a critical capability.
We have, as I already stated, we have a big network with 1,700 access points, but the Wi-Fi is not only about connectivity. Our keyword is the network as a sensor. Okay, so we have 1,700 ears distributed across all our venue that listen a lot of things. Okay? Since 2010, we have developed a project that we call Smart Venue, that is based on all in location-based service. Okay? Using the Cisco DNA spaces, we get all the information from the network, and we are able to explain what's going on our network. How is the people moving from one pavilion to another? Based on Wi-Fi, we are even able to provide temperature, air quality. Even, for instance, in all our Congress, our security staff brings a tag like this. Okay? This is a tag, a Wi-Fi tag that sends a signal every 30 seconds, and we are able to provide real time in a dashboard, the real position of all our security agents. So in case of any incident, we are able to send the agent the closest to an instance, for instance.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and again, it highlights that expanding role that connectivity and Wi-Fi in particular can play. And speaking of expanded role and expanded technologies, one of the big buzzwords of the show, no surprise, is AI. So let's talk a little bit about this notion of how does AI play a role in Wi-Fi networking? And Yogesh, start with you on that.
Yeah, I was hoping we talk 45 minutes and don't talk about AI. Not going to happen.
No, but had to get it in,
All right, so we start with the use case that we just talked about, and I think I'll probably connect the last two questions that you asked. AI and location analytics that Tony's team would want to consume or build applications on top of that. It needs certain technologies. It needs certain telemetry from clients coming in, and then of course it needs the whole that big data or ML to be learned and share the outcomes that we want to share for. So that's a proven use case that is already out there. Now, if you take a step back beyond that, AI can be used in many ways, and in most recent few quarters we have been talking about AI because, to be honest, AI is not new. But AI has been democratized with the few GPT models that became open source and everyone started consuming. So last 20 years or so, different web skill players are using AI to their own advantage, with search and smart use of ads and whatnot. But now everyone can think of making use of AI. Now, how do we use AI for, and what do we use it for? We can use it, let's say, to optimize the outcomes for the customers. Optimize for what? Optimize for time, optimize for cost. Tony might come back and say, hey, I've been doing Wi-Fi for X number of years. Can you use these 1700 years to use this board back? And use the data coming out of there to kind of self-adjust the network for itself.
Sure.
Right? That'll be a simple use case, an expectation that is out of network. Then you can look at accelerating the outcomes and say, all right, I understand my network and the costs have been optimized or the time has been optimized. Can I offer different services? We use one example, location, but that need not be the only one. It can build many other things around it. There is the whole HVAC system, venue like Fira itself. The cost of HVAC probably would be the highest operating cost in terms of power and other consumptions. Can we use network sensor data in a number of devices that are there to feed into HVAC and have a meaningful impact in their OpEx overall for operation of the network or operation of the venue itself? And then the third part is the one that I keep going back to, the use cases that we have not, the transformative use cases that we have not thought about it today. I gave one example of a VR company that can totally change the experience that is out there today. I'm sure the companies that are coming out, the startups, the innovators that are participating in MWC, when they see the outcomes and intelligence out of the venue like Fira, what can they build on top of that and sort of take it from there?
Fair enough. And Ganesh, obviously AI is a critical part of some of the features and capabilities of some of your chipsets, and what roles do you see it playing both now and moving forward?
So from our perspective, AI is obviously a big buzzword, not just in the show, but here in general, right? I think, but what it ultimately means is how do you end up delivering additional value add in terms of every use case a customer cares for. Right. Especially from our perspective, it's about how do we enable certain capabilities that is adaptive, that's predictive in some sense, whether it's maintenance or whether it's network management and operations examples that Yogesh talked about. or big data analytics that you want to run. You have a several deployment of these access points, 1700 years, as Tony talked about. How do you process that data? And how do you curate that insights and provide some valuable, decision-making process? And how do you enable some on the device, some on the cloud? And how do you ensure customers like Cisco have that, view, a single pane of glass network management view to say, hey, here's the deployment, here's what I learned, here's what I need to deploy. Those are opportunities for us to enable, part of it in the silicon, part of it in the cloud, and then how do we kind of bring that together? So that's how we look at AI in those kind of use cases, and then how do we ensure we provide the necessary tools and the actual compute to run those use cases, to bring those insights and make it available for processing.
Tony, is AI something that you guys are using in your network, or something that you think you'll be able to use, in the future?
For instance, in our network, we have artificial intelligence for the channel planning. So our Cisco tools are able to learn from the RF, the channels, the conditions, the raw access points, and are able to set up the channels, the power in real time. And another aspect we can talk about is, for instance, for security. The network can learn of what is the normal behavior of the network, the traffic, and in case of detects any unusual traffic, can trigger some alerts. Another aspect I think it could be interesting is in terms of sustainability. We have information of what's going on the network, which are the crowded areas. For instance, it could be, a trigger for, imagine if you are detecting that one pavilion, the capacity is increasing. For instance, you can turn power off the air conditions better than instead of
Those are all good examples, and like you said, they're typify what you call the smart venue, right?
Exactly,
So, I mean, that's the whole idea, is that you've got these machine learning algorithms that can react in real time, and then make the network more robust and do these other kinds of applications. All right, well, one other question I wanted to get to, because it's, Mobile World Congress, which has traditionally been a cellular, related show, and there's a lot of talk, and we mentioned earlier, there's some interesting technology crossover between Wi-Fi 7 and things like 5G. So, for some organizations, and when we talk about outdoor, Wi-Fi, other people are talking about outdoor private 5G. How do we think about this overlap or potential overlap or coexistence of Wi-Fi 7 and 5G. I think that's, an interesting potential opportunity. And Tony, actually, I want to start with you first on this one. Are you guys using private 5G, or do you see that as something, or do you feel in your particular environment that you can stick with Wi-Fi?
Not at this moment, but for instance, we have our 3 venues, we have 400,000 square meters. So if we need to cover everything with Wi-Fi, we need to invest a lot of money. We don't have this money. So in my opinion, combining Wi-Fi with 5G networks that operates in the band of megahertz, you can cover every area. For instance, if you have warehouse, facilities, a roof that you cannot cover, or it has no sense to cover with Wi-Fi, you can use this band, and this way to have seamless connectivity. So you are connected everywhere on the venue, and it doesn't matter in which technology are you using.
Got it. Yeah. Good to know. Ganesh, what's your take on that? The 5G Wi-Fi coexistence or overlap?
Yeah, I mean, we look at it as an and use case, right? So it's not either or, it's an and there's a reason for that, because a lot of times it depends on the use case, whether it is, highly sensitive application, highly deterministic application like industrial IoT, where timing is of all essence, right? So we see, and sometimes high level of security, right? Transactions or certain secure ports, whatnot, right? In those scenarios, we see a lot more usage of potential 5G private networks, right? Whereas when you look at scenarios where you're servicing a small medium business, for example, or you're servicing Wi-Fi capable devices of many kind that's coming into the network where security is manageable because Wi-Fi has a high level of security as well. So we see a mix of deployments happening on both Wi-Fi and where essential on 5G private networks. There's also a cost trade-off. Obviously, to bring up a 5G private network, there's going to be upfront cost, whereas Wi-Fi comes with a lower upfront cost, but then over time, on the number of clientele that you want to service based on the applications that they're asking for. So we see deployments that's happening on both sides. And from our perspective, we service both 5G and Wi-Fi,
Yes,
right? So two different ways to address the customer use cases. And very happy from a technology standpoint, we have both of them in-house to service the customer base to do exactly that.
Fair enough.
So we're pretty happy seeing both those technologies getting deployed and hope to continue to be that way.
Fair enough. Yogesh, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I would start probably where Ganesh finished. In both cases, in case of Qualcomm as well as for Cisco, we have made bunch of Wi-Fi announcement, but we also made bunch of 5G announcement today here, which means it's not either or, and it's more of an end situation. And if more often than not, it's not about technology. It's about, Ganesh said use case, but it's more so about circumstances. Where are you doing it? What are you trying to achieve? The difference between the two are primarily two things. One is licensed technology from licensed spectrum, another is unlicensed, right? And the minute it gets licensed, can everyone buy that spectrum, right? Versus how soon I need the network. What is the longevity of that network? Do I need the network for a fixed period of time, let's say a week, or do I need it forever? What are my commercial models around it? So there are many things beyond technology that decide the deployment factors, and that will continue to be that way. What we can do while we work on both technologies is to make sure as users move from one technology to another, there is a seamless integration and it doesn't hamper the user experience. So one of the technology that we talked about and is widely deployed in MWC this year is the Open Roam, which is as you come in from outside, you are on your 5G network, on your cellular coverage. As you get to inside, previously user experience would be bad because the connection would drop, then you realize I need to find a new network and then get to it.
Yeah.
Now, Fira has integrated it in their MWC app itself, and you don't even realize, if you are on a video call, it will continue to go in that way, right? So from our point of view, what we need to do is make all the tools available, be it 5G or be it Wi-Fi, to our customers, help them choose the right way, and as they deploy both of those networks, make sure the transition is smooth for both of them.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, gentlemen, thank you. I mean, I think, learned a lot of interesting things about what's happening in the world of Wi-Fi and enterprise Wi-Fi. Obviously, number one, this 6 gigahertz spectrum is a huge opportunity. It's a massive superhighway of potential traffic that can be used. And clearly there's some interesting new applications that could start to be developed because of that. So that's clearly critical. Number two, I think there's a number of interesting technologies when we think about Wi-Fi 7, some of the reliability factors and some of these other things I think are also really going to be important. And then, in terms of the ecosystem and things you can think about, that's, I think, another key takeaway is just this idea of, hey, yes, of course, it's for the basic connectivity, but it's for the smart venue idea, it's for location, it's for other kinds of services, all of which is being driven by, all these types of partners working together from the chip side to the, to the access point side, and obviously then to the customer side and building software applications on top of that. And then finally, last, of course, is that, yes, of course it uses AI because everything uses AI now. We had to say that. And it can coexist with 5G. So once again, I want to thank everybody, Ganesh Swaminathan from Qualcomm, Tony Montes-Palos from the Fira, and Yogesh Paliwal from Cisco. Once again, I'm Bob O'Donnell. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.